Gumball Watterson might look like your average cartoon troublemaker, but don't let that goofy smile fool you. From ruining people's entire lives to tormenting the nicest kid in school, these are 20 of the worst things that Gumball has ever done. Starting with the time he faked a holiday just to get out of school. In the episode The Lie, it had just turned January, and because January is the worst month of the entire year, and literally no one likes it, to cure the depression of the month for Gumball and Anais, they invent a fake holiday called Sluzzletag. Gumball spreads the idea on the bus, claiming there's no school during the holiday, and Principal Brown being Principal Brown, he declares the day off. Well, of course, Miss Simeon becomes determined to prove it's a lie. The Wattersons dive into Sluzzletag activities that they make up on the spot, creating wild traditions like decorating toilets for Sluzzle Dude, a Sluzzle Feast, and Grindcore. But after everyone in town starts celebrating Sluzzletag, Gumball and Anais realize they have to act as the Sluzzle Dude, who is the person giving everyone presents on Sluzzletag.
Words, you know?
To save Sluzzletag, they ran and they ran. Only one thing was missing, and that was a plan.
So with her help, they sneak around the town leaving old Christmas presents that nobody wanted. Except while leaving the presents, they're caught by none other than Miss Simeon. But instead of getting angry, everyone admits that they already suspected the holiday was fake, and were still grateful for the holiday anyway. Well, at the end, everyone was happy to have a holiday in one of the most depressing months of the year. Gumball still fooled everyone in town. But as we will see later, this is just the surface of the worst things Gumball has ever done. And as we dig deeper, we will start to see how ruthless Gumball can be when it comes to getting what he wants. But next up, in the episode The Sale, Gumball and Darwin are devastated to hear the news that Mr. Robinson is moving away. So Gumball and Darwin, absolutely adoring Mr. Robinson, build him a shrine in his honor, and cling to him throughout the episode so much that he finally admits that they're the reason he wants to leave. After a dramatic sigh from above, which actually just turns out to be Gumball with a flashlight, they decide to do whatever it takes to stop Mr. Robinson from selling his house. From staging a fake police arrest, to hiding hobos in the bathtub, and making Richard look like a crazy neighbor, nothing really works, and the new buyers barely react, completely obsessed with how perfect the soil in the yard is. Except Gumball thinks there's actually something deeper, literally, like oil. So he grabs a shovel and accidentally unleashes a flood of raw sewage water instead, which everyone mistakes for oil, and the Robinsons celebrate in their supposed good fortune and cancel the sale, meaning Mr. Robinson is here to stay forever. While Gumball's intentions were to keep Mr. Robinson from moving, his reckless and selfish behavior only made things worse for him, as they really thought for a second that they were sitting on millions of dollars under their house. I wonder how they reacted after finding out the truth, and that they had to keep living next to the Wattersons. But in this next episode, Gumball takes it a little too far by completely annoying Larry, who already deals with a ton of bad customers every day. In The Refund, Gumball and Darwin wait 7 long months for the new video game they want to play, but when they finally get their hands on it, the cartridge doesn't fit the system. Determined to get their money back, they ask Larry for a refund, but he insists he can't help without the manager's approval. Instead of accepting their mistake, buying a game that won't work with their console, they try everything to get a refund, like pretending to be cops.
This is the police! You're surrounded! Put your hands where I can see them!
Nice try, kids.
Attempting to hypnotize Larry, and even showing him a sad charity video starring Anais as a kid living in a shoebox. But still, Larry refuses the refund every single time. When nothing works, Richard steps in, and he tries to intimidate Larry by acting like a tough guy and stealing money from the register, which finally brings out the store's manager, a tiny, cute little bear. But this bear goes all out attacking Richard, forcing Gumball to blackmail the manager just to get a refund for what's worth about probably 20 bucks.
Otherwise, we'll put this security video online, but you'll probably get a modest fine and a couple of days of community service.
Gumball's actions here show his stubbornness, trying every trick in the book instead of accepting responsibility. Like, I understand wanting a refund, but when it's not possible, just learn from your mistake and move on. However, in the episode The Pest, we discover just how malicious Gumball's been ever since he was a little kid. When they find Anais upstairs venting her anger, Gumball assumes he's the reason for it and starts confessing. He admits he once swapped some of Anais's pills for turtle flakes, which is why everyone at school calls her Kraken Breath. He also goes further, revealing that he tampered with her sunscreen as a baby to create a goat-shaped birthmark, hoping it would make her look cursed and less loved by their mom, Nicole. And that's not it. He also confesses to putting stones in their pocket as a baby to stunt her growth because he was afraid she'd outgrow him. It might just be your typical sibling rivalry, with both of them trying to get back at each other. But I don't know though, what Gumball did is crazy. But maybe it's somewhat justified because baby Anais is ruthless.
I can't take this anymore! I'm getting anxiety attacks! Oh, thank you.
So who knows, maybe she had this coming. Next, we got the Bumpkin, where Gumball decides to convert the entire Watterson family into living off the grid, which is inspired by Idaho's simple lifestyle. That means no electricity, no chairs, and no fast food. Just backyard sing-alongs, stargazing, and rough and tumble, which ends up with Idaho getting kicked over the neighbor's house. Well, I know most of you would not survive in this situation. The Wattersons slowly warm up to the lifestyle, except for the one kid who suggested it all, Gumball. He is caught secretly binging snacks and video games at night by Idaho, but before he can say anything, he convinces him to join in. But by the morning, Idaho is nearly dead from all the junk food and video games. This sends the Wattersons in a wild chase around town to return him home to his farmland, where he eventually makes a recovery. While Gumball's idea of a simpler life seemed noble at first, he couldn't stick to it for long. But in the next episode, The Weirdo, Gumball tries to completely change Sussy and make her normal. He starts off by being a bit annoyed and grossed out by Sussy's bizarre gifts and habits, but he tries to be polite so she won't feel rejected. However, after seeing Sussy get bullied, Gumball becomes determined to, quote, fix her, so that she'll fit in and stop being a target. He's judgmental and impatient about her weirdness, trying to change her appearance and personality, convinced that she needs to be normal to survive in society.
I'm not quite sure that accentuating her jawline helped.
Looks like a meat pyramid.
Though his intentions come from wanting to protect Sussy, Gumball acts pretty controlling and superficial, forcing his ideas of what's acceptable onto her. Here, Gumball acts like a fake friend. He tries to make over her personality and looks, showing how quick he can be to judge and force his own ideas of normal onto others. But we do see at the end, Gumball sees life through Sussy's eyes and has a change of heart and embraces her weirdness instead of trying to change her. He stands up to the bullies and joins her on celebrating their quirks, proving that Gumball can actually learn and grow. Well, what he did in this episode is a little messed up. It doesn't even compare to what he did in The X, which really starts to dive into Gumball's jealousy, showing how it slowly builds up and pushes him to act in some pretty selfish and dramatic ways. With a title like The X, you'd expect this episode to maybe be about Gumball and Penny, but instead, it focuses on Gumball's complicated relationship with Rob. Gumball starts off jealous and shaken when his lifelong nemesis Rob switches his focus to ruining Banana Joe's life instead. Despite Penny's advice, Gumball cannot accept losing his arch enemy and tries to win Rob back by sabotaging Rob's plans against Banana Joe. He even goes as far as dressing up like Banana Joe and awkwardly trying to get Rob's attention. And after Gumball ruins yet another plan, Rob finally loses it, yelling at him, calling him the most insufferable, annoying, and selfish person he's ever met.
In fact, I think I really
Say it.
hate you!
But for Gumball, that is all great to hear from his arch nemesis. This episode shows Gumball's jealousy at its worst. When Rob switches his rivalry to Banana Joe, Gumball ignores Penny's advice and obsessively tries to win Rob back by sabotaging his plans. He even embarrasses himself by dressing up like Banana Joe and trying to get his attention. His selfish actions frustrate Rob, who eventually snaps and calls him out. However, Gumball's behavior only gets worse in this next episode, The Secret, where Gumball and Darwin accidentally get locked in the school bathroom. Thinking they'll be stuck forever, Gumball confesses that he's the one one who drew a creepy picture in Darwin's school book, which led to Darwin being sent over to counseling for the summer. Darwin is understandably angry, but just as Darwin's about to reveal his own secret, Rocky opens the door, thinking that they were ghosts of schoolgirls.
Oh man, I'm so glad it's you! I thought this place was haunted by a couple of screaming girls!
We're saved!
They celebrate being freed, but of course, Gumball doesn't let go of what Darwin was about to say, and becomes completely obsessed on finding out Darwin's secrets. He tries everything, from completely destroying him in a game, to feeding him spicy food, messing with his head, and even locking them in the bathroom again. Not only does Gumball turn obsessive, but he becomes manipulative and totally ruthless. All just to know what kind of dirt Darwin has on Gumball. However, once he realized how he's treated Darwin was wrong, he apologized and moved on, completely unaware that the real secret was him totally embarrassing himself with some awful dance moves, and trashing his room in the process.
Check this out.
However, while Gumball here acknowledges his actions were wrong, in the others, Gumball can't accept when another character gets all the attention. In this episode, Gumball figures out there's a whole new world of students that he's never seen before, and learns about a girl named Claire Cooper, who supposedly has a more interesting story than Gumball. I mean, let's be honest, I don't think she matches the kind of things that Gumball has to deal with on a daily basis. Instead of leaving her alone, Gumball decides to insert himself in her life to, quote, fix her, and try to turn her sad goodbye at the school into a forced happy ending, even though Claire clearly wants to face reality on her own terms. Really, what Gumball is doing seems to be more about himself. His need to control the story and be the hero constantly interferes, talking to Claire's friends and the teacher, even trying to convince her love interest to come with her, and narrating her life as if he controls it.
As I walked into the distance, I realized that whilst I had lost one friend, I had gained two, both far superior to the other one. I mean, what was he supposed to be anyway?
Can you at least let me voice my own thoughts?
When she finally tells him this isn't a fairy tale, he still refuses to back off and ends up staging a crazy happy ending for her, with a new job for her dad and being crowned the prom queen. The episode ends with Gumball slamming down his megaphone and dancing, once again telling us that this was much more than him just trying to help a poor girl out. But now we have to talk about the candidate, and things are about to get a lot worse, because Gumball dives headfirst into school politics by running for class president. The episode kicks off with the kids fighting in the school hallway, but then Gumball breaks in to explain how things got so chaotic. It all started the night before at a charity gala, where the kids were stuck locked in a room watching bad TV while their parents partied. After the gala, the kids were bored and trapped in the room, and the room's temperature started rising dangerously. And when the temperature keeps climbing, Anais suggests that they pick a leader, which ends up being none other than Gumball Watterson himself. From here, Gumball's leadership leads to more mayhem, as he pushes the kids towards fighting each other instead of solving their problems, all the while ignoring the rising heat and the whole building falling apart. Obviously, Gumball does not make for a great hero, and during a time where everyone needed him, he failed. Not only that, but Gumball literally pauses the scene once again, and tells the viewers that although he will be blamed, it was technically the other kids' fault since they elected him in the first place.
And that brings us back to now. I know they'll blame me, but it was once said that the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to salty little people who can't fly because they're losers and therefore blame you for every little thing, even though they kind of elected you in the first place.
Gumball.
Meaning that he knew what would happen if he got elected, but he still went along with it, most likely so he can feel superior and powerful. But now we're on to the top 10 of Gumball's worst moments, and his antics are only going to continue to get exponentially worse. And the perfect example of this is in the episode The Dream. It starts off with Gumball freaking out after he has a dream that Darwin kissed Penny, and like any normal person, Gumball won't just let this go. Darwin tries all sorts of over-the-top apologies, from poems to dog videos, but nothing seems to cool Gumball down, because he feels betrayed by both Darwin and Penny, even though it was all just a dream. And things get worse as Gumball then schemes with cupcakes to win over Penny, but ends up accidentally accidentally making her allergic and swelling up, which just makes him even more frustrated. In the end, Gumball forgets about the whole thing when he makes Darwin accidentally kiss Sussy instead in the dream. And he still has the guts to say to him it's just a dream, which he couldn't accept himself. Throughout this episode, Gumball is just completely obsessed with this dream, and his jealousy grows, making everything way more dramatic than it needs to be, and dragging Darwin along for the ride. But sadly, that won't be the last time Gumball's feelings for Penny ended up as some of his worst moments in the entire series. Next, we got the episode The Scam, where Gumball hatches an elaborate Halloween scam with Carrie, posing as ghost exterminators to frighten the entire class, and eventually the whole town. And they're doing this because they're trying to steal everyone's Halloween candy. He knowingly spooks his classmates and tells them about the legend of a man named Gargoth, and keeps chanting his name pretending to summon it. But later in the episode, when the real Gargoth actually gets summoned, he wants all of their Halloween candy to feed his appetite. But Gumball acts out of pure self-interest. He grudgingly feeds the monster every single piece of candy, but then he hoards the final lollipop to himself until Carrie forces him to give it up, risking everyone's safety over one stupid lollipop. This moment stands out as one of Gumball's worst, because he intentionally tricks and scares his friends and teachers for his own gain. His selfishness is clear when he refuses to give the last piece of candy, even though he's putting everyone at risk.
Quick! Is there any more candy left?
No.
Then run again.
Even though they end up saving the day, this episode really shows how selfish, sneaky, and careless Gumball can be when it comes to getting what he wants. Now that the scam's out of the way, let's dive into the episode The Mothers, which takes place on Mother's Day, a day that's supposed to be all about appreciation, but with Gumball, it quickly turns into a competition. For Mother's Day, Gumball and Darwin are making Nicole a flashy card, but of course, immediately Tobias and Banana Joe start bragging that their moms are the best, which pushes Gumball into turning Mother's Day into a full-blown competition. He drags Nicole to the mall for a bunch of wild challenges against Tobias's and Banana Joe's mom. From escalator races to dodging flying cans, Nicole gets completely worn out and dealing with all kinds of chaos. When she finally finds out what the boys put her through just to prove that she's the best mom, she is furious and sends Gumball and Darwin into the car. In the end, they share a heartfelt hug, and Gumball tells her that she's really the superest mom in the world, and everything seems to be forgiven. But for tricking Nicole into thinking that they were gonna spend a normal Mother's Day together, only to put her and the other moms through a bunch of extreme challenges that nearly had them risking their lives just for their selfish contest, it's pretty messed up. But after all that chaos, things only get worse in the episode The Test, where Gumball is so desperate to be popular that he fakes a whole new personality, bottles up his sarcasm, and ends up just making everything even more of a mess. The episode kicks off with Gumball taking a silly online personality quiz, only to freak out when it calls him the loser. So he decides to act totally different and bottle up all his sarcasm, but instead of making him popular, his fake nice guy act messes with reality so badly that the world turns into a cheesy sitcom, with Tobias stepping in as the new loser and even trying to steal Penny. Gumball snaps and lets out his bottled sarcasm in a blast of literal venom that burns Tobias's whole face, flipping everything back to normal, while everyone stands around awkwardly, laughing as Tobias withers away in pain. It definitely earns its spot as one of Gumball's worst moments, and it shows just how far he'll go to fake being someone he's not, all to fit in with zero thought about the consequences. But Gumball's ego only continues in the episode The Hero, where it starts at school with Gumball and Darwin teasing Richard for being embarrassing, because Richard does things like putting cement in cupcakes.
He must be good at something. I guess he's only good at being embarrassing.
Richard overhears this, and this leaves him heartbroken. At home, Nicole demands that they apologize before they can have anything nice, but Gumball's ego is so massive that he can't even apologize. They don't want to apologize so bad that they end up choosing to eat spoiled food and get kicked out of the house, not being allowed to take showers.
Who's the loser now? We got soap, all we need is water.
Dude, I think I'm starting to regret this challenge.
It's coming!
I think I should have closed my mouth.
Eventually, they spot Richard hiding in the shed, being absolutely devastated. So Darwin plans a fake rescue mission in the junkyard to make Richard feel like a hero again, just like he felt like he was when they were kids. When Richard arrives, everything starts to become a total disaster. He saves Darwin from the fall, but Gumball ends up on top of the crusher, balancing on a ladder. In the end, Gumball takes a running leap into Richard's arms. For the whole episode, Gumball spends most of the time roasting his dad, refusing to apologize, and acting totally self-centered. But since Gumball helps Richard feel important again in the end, it just misses the top 5 for that reason. But now, we're on to the top 5 worst things that Gumball has ever done, where his actions go beyond just selfish or reckless, and cross into truly dark, harmful, and downright cruel territory. These are the times where Gumball's worst traits fully take over. And for the number 5 spot, we got the episode The Flower. And look at that, it's another Gumball being jealous episode. But this time, Gumball doesn't just feel jealous, he's completely consumed by it. His obsession with Penny and paranoia over Leslie take over his entire body, basically turning him into a jealous maniac. He completely gets out of control, mocking Leslie and trying to frame him for theft, and just straight up being his #1 hater. But it doesn't end there. He acts all friendly with Leslie, and then out of nowhere, unleashes a horde of snails on the poor guy, who slowly starts eating him as he's glued to the bench.
I see you've met my hungry little friend. I can't move! That's right, I've glued you to the bench.
In the end of this episode, it turns out that the thing haunting Gumball wasn't just a feeling. It was literally a slimy green creature called jealousy that had possessed him. So technically, Gumball didn't do all those cruel things to Leslie, but because of how inhumane jealousy was in Gumball's body, it still ranks high as one of his worst moments. But for number 4, we have the episode The Prank, where Gumball, Darwin, and Richard get caught in a prank war. It all starts when Richard tricks Gumball by putting salt in his cereal, causing Gumball to squirt ketchup all over Richard's face in revenge. But things continue to get out of control from here. Gumball cruelly manipulates Richard into humiliating himself with ridiculous stunts, forcing him to dance half naked on the roof.
I'm a ballerina! I'm a ballerina! I'm a ballerina! I'm a ballerina!
Wedge himself headfirst into the chimney.
Try and fit down the chimney, head first.
And even get sent to sea on rafts.
Yep, he's definitely out cold.
Sunburned and starving, having to depend on coconuts and even his own clothes. Like, that's basically torture, especially for someone like Richard, who heavily depends on food. And when Richard attempts to get back at them, it backfires so badly that he ends up with a bucket jammed on his head. By the end, he totally loses it, crashing through walls and going after his own kids in a full-blown prank meltdown, all because Gumball wouldn't stop messing with him. But now, we're at the point where Gumball's chaos doesn't just embarrass him, it completely turns him into the real-life Thanos. For the number 3 spot, we got the episode The Laziest. The episode starts with Nicole about to leave for work and telling Richard to do his chores. Richard enthusiastically agrees, but immediately slumps on the couch. To avoid Nicole's wrath, he tries to trick Gumball and Darwin into taking out the trash by pretending it's a fun video game. But the boys don't realize they've been duped up until they actually do the work, and they angrily confront their dad. Richard claims his laziness is a medical condition, which inspires Gumball and Darwin to outlazy him. Richard turns it into a contest. If the boys find someone lazier than himself, he'll do their chores for an entire day. But if they don't, Gumball and Darwin have to do Richard's chores for life. The lazy off begins with the 3 collapsing on the couch. Richard loads up on sugar, so Gumball and Darwin do the same, but the sugar rush makes them hyperactive and unable to sit still. Realizing they can't win like this, they call a timeout to find someone lazier. And this is where they hear of a legend named Lazy Larry, better known as Larry Needlemeyer, who used to be the laziest man in town, until Richard took over that title. When the boys ask Larry to get lazy again to help them beat their dad, things quickly spiral out of control. Because of Gumball and Darwin's chaotic interference, Larry almost immediately loses his job, his car, his girlfriend, girlfriend, and even his house. His life quickly falls apart, turning him back to his old self. It's a harsh reality. Gumball and Darwin are the reason Larry's life goes completely downhill. What started as a silly contest to prove who's lazier ends up wrecking someone else's life, revealing just how thoughtless and reckless their actions can be. And this type of behavior doesn't stop there. In the episode The Recipe, Gumball causes Anton to be killed. In the beginning of the episode, Anton seems to die during the swim class, but turns up totally fine the next day, and Gumball becomes obsessed with figuring out how he survived. Through this, they discover that Anton's parents literally pop him out of a toaster whenever he just dies, and Gumball tries it himself, accidentally creating a bunch of clones, with one of them even wanting revenge. And one of the clones, decides he wants to replace Anton completely, and even tries to take Gumball as his new best friend, calling him his father. Which, calm down there, buddy. I know Gumball is not ready to have a son anytime soon, but things get way out of hand when Ant 1 turns the other clones into an army and goes after Gumball and Darwin. In true Gumball fashion, the chaos ends with Ant 1 getting pushed into the pool, and everything goes back to normal. This is what I would say if the episode didn't end with Gumball and Darwin mistaking the real Anton for a clone.
We played with life and didn't think of the consequences. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive us, and we can still be friends.
Still be friends.
While Anton might seem like the Kenny of Gumball, always bouncing back after dying, that doesn't mean he doesn't feel pain. And Gumball doesn't just kill one Anton. Oh no, he's responsible for multiple Antons meeting their fate, basically playing God as he creates clones, and then being the reason for multiple deaths of Anton. He did apologize, but as we've seen constantly, Gumball just seems to apologize for his actions, but he never actually learns from them. But now, we're here at the worst Gumball moment in the entire series. That being in the episode The Saint. It starts with Gumball loudly eating chips in the library, ignoring Darwin's warnings, then knocking over a computer and accidentally setting it on fire. The librarian immediately, like she has super hearing, hears this and runs over to Gumball. However, Alan, who is watching the whole thing, takes the blame and the librarian gives him a detention instead. And you would think Gumball would be appreciative, and maybe even do stuff for Alan as a thank you. But nope, Gumball sees this and wonders why Alan would risk getting detention, and decides to find Alan's breaking point. He first messes with Alan's online reputation by posting a rude message on his account.
Oh my gosh, why are there so many drawn people in Elmore? Go back to your flat country and stop ruining our economy. Nobody likes it too, DS.
Causing a flood of thumbs down that literally pummel Alan. He goes further by faking photos to make it look like Alan is cheating on Carmen, which causes them to inevitably break up. Gumball keeps pushing it by stealing Alan's last meatball, rubbing it on his face, and eating it in front of him, all while Alan surprisingly remains calm and forgiving. Even after that, Gumball shows no mercy and plays a tape of Alan's parents being turned into balloon animals, screaming in agony.
Now, who wants to see balloon tricks?
No, please, I have a son. Dexter, make it stop.
Through all this, Gumball's actions are completely mentally insane, and it's one of the clearest examples of Gumball's worst, most toxic behavior, showing how far he'll go to cause chaos at the expense of others. And even after all that, Alan is so nice, he pretends to be mad just to make Gumball happy, showing that out of everyone Gumball could have picked, it had to be the nicest character in Elmore. But that doesn't excuse what Gumball did to try and break him down. Even though Alan bounces back with his parents and his relationship, Gumball's relentless torment and cruelty throughout the episode just shows how far he's willing to go to get what he wants, no matter who he hurts along the way. That's the end of the video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing, and if you don't, Gumball will torture you. That was a threat. You better subscribe.